Hi, and welcome to the party. Today is Wednesday, and we call it Messenger Wednesday. And today we're discussing everything and anything having to do with law enforcement and criminal justice reform. So again, this is Future Week. Everything that we're talking about is about the future. We're coming up with ideas to issues that exist today and where we want to go tomorrow. So that's what today is about. And unfortunately, when it comes to law enforcement and criminal justice reform, this is going to be an ongoing, sort of like, think of it as a serial. Each week we're going to be taking on something new, a different aspect of law enforcement and criminal justice reform, and work on it from that point of view. And it's going to be over 17 to 20 different sections. Why? Well, just recently we learned that what we had written down, and everything is in writing, but right now we just want to discuss things because tomorrow we're going to give you an example of what it is to deal with us and having had it in writing. But today we want to keep it a little bit more loose and talk about the topic and get down the road to what it says in writing, what it'll be literally in writing. But where we are today is so crazy because it never used to be an issue, at least not on the level and the scale that it is today, of how we deal with Americans, people here in the United States of America, whether they be a tourist, a professional here on an assignment, whether that be in the medical field, engineering field, nuclear science field. It could be a professional golfer. I mean, can you imagine right now with the way the right wing is behaving? They could go on a golf course today and grab whatever golfers out there on the 12th hole and arrest them because, well, their status doesn't meet the way we want it. This has never happened before. And so we're going to have to work on a few more sections to this idea of criminal and law enforcement reform to deal with a new issue, something that had not been an issue before, certainly not to the extent that has been made an issue today by, let's face it, the right wing. These are not issues that the left wing has caused and made into a major issue. Although we can honestly say, especially here in Chicago, the Democrats, the left wing has been complacent and complicit. And with some of the things that have occurred, some of the abuses and some of the illegal behavior that has occurred under the watch of Democrats, just as it has and is occurring under Republicans. So this isn't just a blue or red issue. It's a national issue. It's an international issue. One of the beautiful things about, and they say this often, that if you want to get beyond yourself and to know things, travel. Well, the first thing that you can just do here in the United States, although it was a heck of a lot easier, 20, 30, 40 years ago, and I'll admit, for a white guy, that's 100% true. But getting around the United States and meeting people. Because, as a little kid growing up here in Chicago, I just foolishly thought everyone in the United States was the same. We're all Americans, right? So we all are the same. We're Americans. Well, when you get down and visit my family in North Carolina, I found, especially with some of the words that they used, and I'm a wee little kid, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. You don't know what a pejorative is. Well, it's not, who uses that word at the age of 6? Pejorative. But my father's side of the family in Fayetteville, North Carolina, there was only 3 relatives that I had that did not use nasty words. My father's mother, my grandmother, and then the matriarch and patriarch of the family, Uncle Bill and Aunt Eileen. who did not use horrible, nasty, stupid words. Everybody else did. It was quite a shock. And I learned that when you travel around the United States, just like if you were to travel in Europe, everywhere you go, you're going to meet different people of a different culture. And even here in the United States, a different dialect, if not a different language. That was interesting. That was illuminating. And what we learned, as I learned, everybody learns when you travel, is that there is no exact one way to do something. We may want to believe that, but there just isn't. But what I'm trying to get to is that when I went to Europe, especially when I got there in 2002, you could still feel the aura of the history and what everybody had learned from World War II, Nazi occupation, and the Holocaust. The police there behave in a very different manner than they do here in the United States of America. And too many people here in the United States of America have been murdered. There's no other way to put it. There's no excuse for officers to put a knee on somebody's back when they're handcuffed and keep it on their back for 10, 20, 50 minutes. That's ridiculous. That is overly violent. It is absolutely in violation of anything that you could consider human rights. I don't care what the person did. And then so often, what we're talking about is somebody who's having a breakdown of some sort. Whether it be psychological, emotional, whatever it may be. It's some kind of a psychological breakdown. And instead of just chilling, our law enforcement needs to get in there and be aggressive and be violent. Why? No one here experienced the horrors of World War II occupation. The United States of America was so free from all of the atrocities that we have no idea what it is to need to protect people from those atrocities. We have no idea. What I saw in Europe was something that was completely and totally different, at least in 2002 up through 2007 when I finally left, and I haven't been back since. Mostly because of money. One time, there was this area in Amsterdam called the Leidseplein, which in Chicago terms would be sort of like comparing Leidseplein in that area and Vondel Park to the Lincoln Park neighborhood and Lincoln Park here in Chicago. Only way to describe these two. Similar, but of course, 500 years in age difference. I mean, it's so different. But my point is that there was this gentleman who was having a breakdown. Oh, he was just all over the place with his hands, his arms, his voice. Boy, he was loud. He didn't have anything in his hand. He didn't have it was just himself. So 2 officers come up and stand there. Eventually there were 6. And I remember a couple of white shirts standing there. They're sort of like lieutenants, if you will. And they evaluated the situation, and they let this guy just go on and on. They kept their distance, 2, 3, 4 feet away, made a circle around. But they didn't touch him. They didn't do anything. They just let him go. They finally got to the point where we only need to leave 2 officers here. This guy's just going on a rant. By the time he's done, everything be cool. So sure enough, about an hour and a half went by total. And I'm sitting there watching the whole thing. And eventually the guy just got tired, stopped talking, stopped waving his arms, and just chilled, sat, and then eventually got up and walked away. And nothing happened. No incidents, no reason to throw the guy on the ground, no reason to break his nose, no reason to cause blood, no reason to handcuff him, no reason to take him away or do anything obnoxious. Why did they do it that way in Amsterdam? Because they learned something from World War II the United States of America still to this day does not get. We don't get it. I mean, we have to have training sessions on how to behave with one another. I mean, quite seriously. We are such a warped society that we actually have to sit down police officers, law enforcement officers, to teach them to chill with somebody who's not violent but having a mental breakdown. Don't get violent with them. Just let it be. We have to teach them that? Really? That tells you something about the American psyche. And that's something that has to change, but it comes with culture, and it actually comes with an experience that the United States of America and Americans in general just do not have. We have no idea what it is to be occupied. The only people in this country, well, I guess two, that can actually comment on what it is to be invaded and controlled or whatever would be the Japanese as a result of World War II. And then anybody who has ancestors from 1860 to 1865 who lived in the South, and they had the North march through and burn down their homes, steal their property, all in the name of ending slavery. Majority of those soldiers coming in from the North by 1864, 1865 were immigrants who were brought in, well, they came here, who were brought into the military. Is the idea, if you want to be here in the United States, you got to join the military first, then we'll let you stay. It was basically a form of extortion, if you will. And none of these men who were later in the war were working from the idea of chivalry or virtue or honor. No, this was just blatant, vicious bullying. And so there's only two different groups in the United States right now who could even talk about what it is to be occupied. One we're talking about is 150 plus years ago, so there's nobody alive who remembers. And then the other group we're talking about are the Japanese, and now you're talking about a handful, a real small handful, who are still alive, who remember, and they would have been children when this happened. See, that's part of the problem when we come to criminal justice and law enforcement reform here in the United States, is that we don't have any personal experiences when it comes to the atrocities that have been put upon people in other parts of the world. So, with that in mind, one of the things that we wanted to propose was, at the end of things, you are arrested here in the United States, and according to our Constitution, which is a little different than some, and it was sort of like the beginning of this for a lot of nations around the world, and it was one of those things you could actually say was a good thing about the United States of America and how we founded ourselves. It's the idea that if you are arrested and you are taken to court for a crime, whether it be a misdemeanor or a felony, you are granted an attorney if you can't afford an attorney. Sounds really good on the face, doesn't it? Sounds like, wow, what a great system. But here's the problem. The government can spend $500,000 to prosecute you and give the attorney who's representing you $5,000. Total budget. And we're only going to pay you $25,000 a year. Well, is that really fair? Is that equitable? Is that what the Constitution and what they were trying to do in 1789? Is that really what they were trying to accomplish? I think they missed the mark, in part because, yes, we like to pick on everyone from that era because they weren't perfect. Let's accept the fact that no one's perfect today. So no one was perfect then. But they did believe in this idea of virtue, and they did believe in this idea of honor, believe it or not. It was words they used. It was words that they believed should be part of the political vernacular and part of society. So I think deep down they sort of felt like this idea, it would be equitable. It would be a just system where the prosecution and the defense would be functioning on equal terms, and they would just be dealing with the facts. Just the facts. Well, now it's all about money. And over the centuries here in the United States, it really has become about money. And so if the state can spend $500,000 on a case, and your public defender's only got $5,000, what do you think the outcome's going to be? Is your defense attorney really going to be able to put together the briefs that might actually just get the whole thing thrown out of court because it was an illegal arrest in the first place? No, because they're not going to have the time. Are they going to be able to find the witnesses or the proper evidence to prove that you're innocent? No, because they don't have the time. They don't have the resources. Where the government, who's got a $500,000 budget, could put people on the street to dig up whatever stupid dirt they want to find. Or invent dirt. And now, if your attorney's not prepared for it, they're fighting something that's fictitious that has absolutely nothing to do with the charges, but that's being thrown in. And if you don't properly address it, it could go right on through. It could have been completely and totally illegal. But now you've been convicted, and you have to get another attorney to file an appeal. Really? It's all wrong. So, the first proposal that we're putting forth with the Peace Party when it comes to law enforcement and criminal justice reform, on what we call Messenger Wednesday, is that whatever the prosecutor is spending, the budget, has got to be the same budget given then to the defense. If you have a public defender and the government's spending $500,000 to prosecute, the defense needs $500,000 to defend. Now, what's going to happen? Well, I have a feeling you're going to see how the government adjusts itself, because you really need to spend $500,000, or you're just wasting money. Because if you got to spend $1 million, $500,000 for the defense, $500,000 for the prosecution, $500,000, you may cut that down to $100,000. So each gets $100,000. So it would save money. It would be a heck of a lot more effective and better for the defendant, and I think in the end better for criminal justice. Because right now we have a very crooked system in the sense that prosecution and the government has got all the cards. We just heard that said the other day by somebody, that I have all the cards, you don't have any cards. Well, that's how we like to play it when it comes to law enforcement. We don't want the defendant to have any cards, although we want to say that we're giving them cards by having them have a public defender. Let's just be straight. We want to make it fair and straightforward. So, with that in mind, that is one of the proposals we're going to be putting forth in writing. It'll be one of the sections out of the 17 or 20 now that's... Gosh, this list is just so long. It's just incredibly ridiculous how many different kinds of issues we can discuss within criminal justice and law enforcement reform. And so that's the proposal. When it comes down to how we want to end today, we always end it the same way. First off by saying thank you. And then the question that'll never end. What's a reasonable profit for a landlord to make on an apartment unit that costs $1,000 a month total to operate? We're looking for the answer. And until then, until we get the answer, until we figure out how to solve all these problems, we're going to be back every week, every Monday through Friday. We believe in giving you the weekend off because the weekend is for you, for me. We should all enjoy ourselves and try not to bury ourselves into all of the hard work. Although, let's face it, we're not going to give up on the hard work. We just know that where we are today is going to take time. So thank you much, and we'll see you tomorrow.